This is Matt Harris with Verado, and today we have Ted Dinsmore on the show with SphereGen, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his business and what they're doing in the realms of technology, and I'll let him talk. So,
well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on Verado.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
We've had a long working relationship over years,
Yep.
so thank you for including me in this. SphereGen Technologies based in New Haven, Connecticut. We have offices in Toronto, Canada, Dublin, Ireland, and Pune, India. We're about 75-person consultancy. We do custom app development mainly, but what we really do is create products for our customers. And we've created a couple products that we've spun out as ourselves, but we really create full product suites for our customers. Mainly we're in healthcare and manufacturing, but we do other verticals, but mainly it's healthcare and manufacturing. And I hope to talk to you today about all the exciting stuff we've been leveraging AI to do, which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's like we now have a term for the stuff we've been doing for 20 years.
Right.
Like, okay, this is cool. So look forward to talking about this.
Yeah, awesome. So how did SphereGen start? What's the origin story? You mind?
No. So I sold my last company in 2008, went public and sold that. And then this is the next generation that my partner, Ani, was working with me in that company. He went back to India and started working there and set up our operation there. And that's the core of our development center along with near Pune University. So we worked with the university system to get the right talent we needed.
Right.
We've been focused a lot in the healthcare in the past 15 years. We first started out by developing a full EMR in Switzerland, which is a multilingual EMR.
What's an EMR?
Electronic medical record system.
Okay.
So everything in the hospital it runs is an EMR.
Okay.
Right. So this one was kind of unique because the Swiss system is an 8-payer system.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated private payer system, and it's also completely multilingual. So it's French, German, English, and Italian all in the same system, which as Americans, we don't think that much about, but that's really important when you're designing technology to design it as multilingual. And we learn so much about how to design software, architect software from a perspective of the world and not just English. So that's where we started, and we've been working with clients ever since, a lot in the healthcare space and a lot in the manufacturing space.
Right. So Epic would be an EMR.
Epic, yeah.
Now they're the Titan of the space.
Correct. We sometimes say we're the Epic of Switzerland, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah, it's close, right?
Yeah. No, we found that we have a lot of kind of cross-pollination with experiences of working with European companies. We have a European client. We've had a couple offshore clients as well. But I found that doing business in Europe can be very different than doing business here.
Yeah.
Not just the language, but some of the expectations, the price points are a little bit different. And it's different from region to region. I don't know if you found that. Like Switzerland would probably be very different than working in like England or Holland.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. But I think the important thing there is the lessons of multilingual in my mind.
Right.
And we're seeing that more in the United States and with our work in Canada as well for French. Now, ingraining that process of we have to think as software developers that any language can be applied.
Yeah.
And some of the products we've created, it's like it has to. I mentioned the reading product to you that we created. That's solely a multilingual. It can run on any language. So thinking about that through, it really is an experience that as a software developer for way too many years, I didn't really think about it as much until we had that European experience. So it really helped us in our long-term approach.
Right.
And
so would you say that as you guys have gone from 2008 to today, and we can get into some of the products that you guys have launched, but as you evolved as SphereGen, how much of it was you taking cues from your clients and being like, this is something that we need, this might be something another company needs, versus you also coming to the table with these clients proactively and saying, you might not have thought of this, but we think you might need this. And how much is it?
So we took a lot of clues from our clients.
Right.
And then when the AR/VR piece that we added to our business was about 8 years ago now, we said we're going to invest in this because we think that's going to be a market. And that did evolve into multiple products. So, and then when RPA came in, which was robotic process automation, which is now AI, right? About 5 years ago, we looked at that and said, wait a minute, this is going to be a big part to our business. So we really should be looking at it. So then we went to existing customers and new customers with that new service offering. So it was a combination of both.
And then how much at that point did you say, okay, we have to start investing our own R&D in this versus have our clients, just work exclusively in their direction, or we can see something that might be a little bit bigger here. We might have to dip into our own pockets or through a partner or an investor. Was there a point at which with the AR products that you built where you had to say, okay, let's do a sprint out of our own pocket to get this thing to the next?
Always. We always take a percentage of our overall time allocation in the business, and the percentage changes based on we got too much work going on, we have less time for R&D, but we always have an R&D bucket of ours that, and we have a process within the company where people can say, I want to work on that technology, bring that technology forward.
So it's R&D and training.
Correct.
Like we do the same thing,
Yeah. And then the give back, they have to give back those do lunch and learns to the rest of the team. Here's what we've done. We do a quarterly company meeting where they have to present. So, it really does help having that ingrained in our culture of we've got to keep looking forward because, as you know, the world in software has changed for years, right? And it's going to continue to change, of course. So you have to get your processes and a consultancy to actually line up with that, to embrace the change.
Yeah.
Both ones that come from customers and ones that you're thinking the market's going to go to.
Yeah. I think, I always joke, like I could have become a stonemason and I just would have done the same thing for my whole career.
Right.
But like I think since I started in this industry in '95, with the type of work I'm doing, and that's just one like fraction of it, of the technology, generally speaking, I've seen at least 3 revolutions of like, oh crap, we have to change everything we're doing.
Right.
And now we're, I think, on the brink of a 4th.
Yeah.
Right.
With AI.
And it's like, it can be exhausting sometimes, mentally exhausting to be like, okay, we have to, retool everything again.
I agree, but I also think it's what keeps this industry interesting. It's I always use the term lifelong learning. In software, we have to be lifelong learners, which is good for your brain, for your whole personality, for you as a person to continually learn. You stop learning, you die.
I also think of the business as like this organism, and as there's people that have been in it for a while, and they start to
nucleus.
get kind of wiser. They have that experience that's kind of their foundation. They can nurture some of these younger minds that are vibrant. There's days where I'm like, man, my hard drive is full. I've defragged numerous times. But I'm in the leadership role now, running the agency, which is a different skill set, like more soft skills, more strategy, not so much like in the code. I was never really a back-end coder. I was a front-end engineer, for lack of a better word. And then, got into different stuff. But
when you learn finance too, right, being a leader, right?
There's nothing you don't touch. It's like, I know how to run the garbage out to the garbage can too, and you run the vacuum. It's like you have to do all of it. Absolutely. At some point.
I look back on from when I went to college, and I won't share the year. Because the languages have changed so much since then. I started on assembly, believe it or not. That the only class I still use was a finance class on profit and loss. It's the only one I'm like, wow, I still use that almost every week. At least keep track of the numbers.
I have the weirdest. Not to make this screw it. I have a very weird degree. I studied. I have a bachelor's of science degree in sculpture.
Wow.
So I studied computer science and physics and calculus as my science requirements. And then I spent the rest of my time in a studio making things.
Cool.
And, looking back, it was me just trying to figure out how to get through college with my, creative brain.
Right.
And, I wasn't super excited about high school, but I got to college and figured out a way where I could be in college and work with my hands.
Right.
And now I look back at what I was doing having now this is all in retrospect, but you're like, if you could build a curriculum that's like, be creative, work with your hands, and study sciences,
Right.
right?
Isn't that STEM?
Like, but I know, but the working with your hands, like
yeah,
creativity, making things. I was casting
right.
bronze, welding, making clay bodies,
which
running
is
kilns.
exactly why you get attracted to manufacturers who
Right.
make stuff.
Yeah.
Our previous conversation, we like people that make
Yeah,
things,
let me
right?
see how you make this thing.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah,
and that's the
that is
one thing
fun.
that drawback about the world I'm in. Like we make stuff, but it's digital. It's not tangible. But if you can work with, like, I love to work with clients where you're like, okay, this is the end result. We're making these products, we're moving them around the world.
And not to jump to the AI, but because we're working with manufacturers and freeing up their time using AI, they can actually focus more time on making stuff, which I think is rewarding for me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how you feel about it, but it's like, we need to free up people so they can work with their hands and be creative.
Be creative.
Right.
Exactly. Solve problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get stuck in a rut of just trying to do the same thing over and over again.
I'm sure you saw the joke about, AI. I want AI to do my laundry so I have more time to do what I want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the next 5 years. So we're gonna get into an AI conversation next, but before we do, just tell me a little bit about the augmented reality product that you guys have created. Oh, and before that, so as a service business, and I can relate to this, there's a point at which you're like, could I just be a product business? I'm tired of being a service business.
Yeah.
And so you end up figuring out how to actually spin off products out of your service business.
Correct.
I'm kind of in the middle of doing something like that. So why don't you give me a little bit of background on that?
Yeah, so you're either a service or a product company,
Right.
And no investor is going to invest in a services company because, you're services. So what we've done is a model of we help our clients create products, but we also spun out our own products. The first one is DICOM Director. It's a surgery product on augmented virtual mixed reality, any type of headset. And basically it's for patient-informed consent and pre-surgical planning. So we take a CT MRI, convert that to a 3D model, and then you visualize that using augmented or virtual mixed reality. And we work on any hardware platform.
So just for people that are listening, you have a headset and you give it to a patient or a patient's parent or some stakeholder in this.
Yeah.
And they can put the headset on.
Right.
And they'll see a 3D model with an
their,
overlay
of their organ.
Okay.
It's a very important thing is you can show somebody a 3D model of here's a leg, right? I want to see the model of my leg. What's wrong with it, right? Or my organ, right? Or my child. We see a lot in children's hospitals. What's wrong with my child? I need to visualize that. And currently the doctors show a CT or MRI to a patient or a parent or whatever. It's hard to understand. It's impossible. Doctors spend 3 years in school learning how to read a CT or MRI. Normal people like us don't have that time. So what we do is convert to a 3D model and allow them to collaborate with the patient or someone else. So it's really like collaboration. Like I may have an iPad. I'm the doctor. I may have an iPad. The person has a headset, they can rotate, they can see it, they can see what, is going on with them.
Yeah.
So that's been one product. The second product we created was around reading. And this was out of work with optical neurology. And really what we've done is taken a headset and allow you to track your eyes while reading a paragraph. Now, when you do a normal eye test, you just use the occipital part of the brain, right? When you read, you use your entire part of the brain. So what we've learned is using a headset, we can actually track your eyes and get a lot of valuable data to parents, teachers, and doctors about what's going on with the student's reading. So, and that's called Reading XR.
Have they used that for dyslexia?
Yes, people do use it for dyslexia. We don't diagnose, but yes.
I mean, in dyslexia studies.
Yes, there are people who have used it in that. So it's used in it shows visual problems. It also shows, distracted. We call them distracted issues.
Yeah.
We don't diagnose. We provide data for parents, teachers, and doctors to understand what's going on.
Right.
So it's a tool, right? You always say make the tool. Don't actually, be the guy.
Yeah, I'm not asking to be a doctor, but yeah, there's anyway. I'm dyslexic.
Okay.
And I'm a probably third generation, and then before that, they were probably not super literate anyway, so no one knew.
Right.
You know, if a farmer's dyslexic, like, no one knows.
No.
Because he's probably really good at farming, and who cares?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And then my son is actually one of my sons also, which is like, we're totally open with it now. I don't care. I think I think of it as kind of a superpower. There's a lot of, you know, there's a downside obviously, but there's a lot of dyslexics that are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Like if
a
you
lot.
listen to how I built this, like it's funny how many that podcast, how many of the entrepreneurs will say, yeah, well, so I was not really good in school.
Right.
Like,
right.
I'm like,
right.
that sounds familiar.
Well, it's been fascinating. I have ADHD,
Yeah.
and I see it when I'm doing my reading. I'm like, boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's how my brain works. Yeah, that's true.
Totally.
Okay.
And what I was thinking about your headset is like, they say, and I think the research is still kind of evolving on this, but that dyslexics actually use a different part of their brain
Yeah,
to read.
that's my understanding too.
Yeah. And so it'd be interesting to see if there's a correlation between what their eyes are doing. And
So the whole studies that, and we're just implementing the technology, but we reference all the studies from a lot of European studies about dyslexia, ADHD, about how you look at visual cues of reading. How do you interpret that? Is that dyslexia? Is that? So there are a lot of studies around that. The research has been going on for 100 years, believe it or not, on using eye tracking to diagnose things.
Yeah.
So
we actually do, like with websites, they do the heat maps of like where people are
looking. Right,
Yeah.
right,
Which
right.
is like interesting.
Yeah.
So I did a podcast. One of my podcasts is on Industry 4.0.
Okay.
And it's like, what is Industry 3.0? Let's understand that first, because what was interesting is like, no one even used the term 3.0 until 2011.
Really?
That was the first book where everyone mentioned it. And then it was like 5 years later, they're like, no, it's 4.0.
Right.
So I was like, what's the difference?
Are we on 5.0 yet?
No.
No. Oh, okay. We will be.
So my understanding, and this is in that podcast, is that it's the artificial intelligence, neural nets, augmented reality, and biotechnology, and it's essentially the merging of the biological experience with the digital experience, the closing of the gap, the reduction of latency. So what you guys are doing, AR, AI, that's all 4.0 tech.
Correct.
But 3.0 is all of the internet, all the cloud computing, all of the mobile phones.
All
like
the
you had to
infrastructure.
build this infrastructure,
Yeah.
and then you lay 4.0 on top of it with this biological technology stuff.
Yep.
Which is kind of fascinating. So like, how fast can we learn in the next, once we have this technology in place, this, broadly cast 4.0 tech stuff.
Right.
What are we going to learn and how fast?
It's going to be very fast.
It's crazy.
It's going to be very fast.
Yeah.
I mean, switching to AI and neural nets, I mean, you see the pace that we're increasing our training of the AI right now.
Yeah.
We started out where it took 2 months to train an AI to take a picture and figure out what was in the picture, right? Now it's down to 3 days. You know, it's been, we are learning faster and faster, and we're teaching the computers faster and faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think there's a lot of anxiety around this, obviously.
Totally.
And I would say that's reasonable. Like that's a reasonable emotional response.
Absolutely.
To this. It is scary. But I also like to kind of put context around things so people don't get so freaked out.
Right.
Like we have been, in my perspective, there's been revolutionary tech almost every generation.
Yep.
That's completely transformed businesses, and businesses have had to adapt. That's been going on continually.
Yep.
But there's also this sense, this is what when I started in this industry in 1995 versus now, which is 30 years later, almost, there's probably in my industry, and you're in my industry overlap a little bit, but then you go this way and there's stuff that we don't do. There's probably 25 different career paths that I could put a title on that did not exist 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have been able to even anticipate that that was a career path 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So what is this technology going to do? What jobs are going to be created as a result of this technology?
It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. I think, everyone's afraid, it's going to take jobs away. But every technology revolution takes some jobs away.
Right.
It also creates
transforms.
Right.
Yes. and back to lifelong learning.
Exactly.
You have to continually learn because your job's going to change, you know, for the better most of the time.
And what's exciting for me, back to manufacturing, is that you would think this technology would replace manufacturing jobs, which we've seen in the past. But I think there's this growing there's a growing opportunity for boutique manufacturing.
Yes.
And I think there's a reshoring trend that's happening. There's data that show that.
Absolutely.
And I think this evolution of technologies actually can empower older businesses to modernize and startups to start from scratch, which was like almost unthinkable 30 years ago to start a manufacturing business in America.
Well, look what COVID did to manufacturers, right?
Yeah.
Before everybody would have a piece of paper that come in, you know, a material cert or whatever, a PO, and then just file in the file cabinet. Well, once COVID hit, they had to digitize, right? They were not in the office anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're at, okay, it's all digital. Now we can actually, I would say, you know, the COVID experience actually sped up our use of AI now because now we have everything digital already. Well, not everything, but a lot of stuff has been digitally transformed, and that trend is continuing and speeding up by AI.
But the sprint we did during COVID, a lot of it was sloppy, right?
Totally.
And now we're doing cleanup.
Yeah.
We're seeing the same thing.
Yeah. And both healthcare and manufacturing, we're seeing that.
Yeah.
We did a ton in healthcare during COVID just to get stuff connected. You know, the infrastructure, like you said, in Industry 3.0, we did a lot of Industry 3.0 type stuff, remote
just
doctors.
playing catch up. Just playing catch up.
Right. Now we can actually leverage that in the digital world.
Totally. So to summarize, because we're going to have a part 2, but obviously we're seeing, like, my belief is that manufacturing's strong and getting stronger in America for a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
Interesting to hear about the origin of SphereGen.
Thank you.
The augmented reality stuff is fascinating too. Good luck with that, by the way. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, cool. We're going to wrap it up on this one, and then we're going to talk specifically about how Ted's company, SphereGen, has been helping businesses leverage AI to improve workflow. So once again, thanks for listening. Stay tuned for future podcasts. We have another podcast coming up right away with Ted. Subscribe, catch us on YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.